Hey everyone, so I'm going to do something a little different today where I'm going to actually show you how I go about analyzing this skull for a drawing that I'm going to be doing, which I'm going to show you after, and this is kind of, sorry, this is a little, but we're going to do this after. So I'm going to just start by showing you how I go about looking at the values and figuring out, where the darks are, where the lights are. So if you look at this, you see that obviously this entire skull is green, like it's painted green from the store. But when we look at it, we see, different values. So we might see that this in here, right there, that's really dark. And then this is kind of like mid-tone, and then this is light. And we can do that all throughout this whole skull. We can start looking at these values. And then these are some of the kind of things that we're going to be trying to match up on our actual drawing. So when you're doing your drawing, these are the things that you want to be looking for. So like even subtle things like, see how right in here, like this part here is really light and this is light. So this is like the nose. The light is coming up from the window and it's hitting, the top. It's hitting over here on the top of the nose. It's hitting here. It's hitting on this side, but not on this side, right? It's a little bit darker there. So anyway, we're going to get into the drawing and I'm going to show you exactly, okay, so, you might be able to observe this, but then how do you actually go about effectively showing this on your drawing? So that's what we're going to be doing today. A nice sketch using cross-hatching, using pen. I'm using a 005 Micron pen, and so let's get into it.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a longer video than my usual videos, but I'm going to try to give you a bunch of different tips on how to draw a skull, and I will try not to make this boring. So basically, what the first tip that I want to give you is that when you're drawing a skull, the one thing that will really help is more than probably anything else is to be thinking about this concept of direction of line. And so direction of line is something that I've talked about a lot in my different videos, and that is thinking about how the lines kind of shape the form. So if you look at like even the bridge of the nose, right, of the nose of the skull, you notice that the lines, they're not just going in any random direction. So the way to make your lines most effective is to kind of be always thinking about which direction they should be going in. And if you're just like, okay, I kind of get that, but I'm not really sure which way to make the lines. You don't want them necessarily be like all haphazard going in random directions, but maybe you're just not really sure what to do about that. One thing to think about is it's almost as if you're taking your lines and you're kind of like thinking about how it would be if you wrapped the object in lines. So an analogy that I like to use is like actually thinking about like a topographical map, and that you're sort of trying to use lines to kind of shape the form. And if this concept is completely new and you're not really quite getting it, I'm going to link a couple cross contour videos because cross contour is really helpful for understanding the concept of direction of line. So that's the first one. It's just understanding how to use direction of line the most effectively. Okay, so the second tip that I have, and this is something that you're going to want to think about with anything that you're drawing, is that having soft edges is very important to making things look more realistic. So if your goal is to make something look more realistic and natural, as opposed to say more graphic, right? Like if you're trying to get like a more of a 3D look, like in this case, that's what I'm trying to do, you're going to want soft edges. And so what I mean by that is that sometimes when people put a harsh outline around their drawing, what it ends up doing is it flattens things out. So look at your drawings and see if that's something that you're doing, and you want to try to avoid that. So you want to have your edges be softer and not quite as harsh, because again, the harsher edges are going to flatten things out. My third tip is working on getting a full range of values. And so value is basically just like having a variety of both dark, midtone, and light marks. And so if you notice this, like probably the best place to look at it right now so far is on the teeth and then the area above the teeth. And what you see there is that you'll notice that there's really dark values where I've been pressing down enough or layering enough that it's basically like a full black, darkest value. And then you also have sort of like gray midtones. And a lot of what you're doing when you're cross-hatching is building up those values. And so what you want to be doing is building up those values, but trying to be careful not to overwork. So that's sort of sometimes something that people deal with is that, you want to be doing more layering of your lines, but if you overdo it, it might get too dark. And so that's just something just to kind of be aware of. But if you'll notice there, that area, it has a full range of values, and same now with the nose area. So you've got darker areas, then you've got midtones, and that will just make it look more realistic as well. So my fourth tip is layering. And so I'm using a Micron 005 pen, which is like the smallest, I think it's the smallest tip pen that they make. Now, if you're using a thicker pen, you're going to notice that your drawing kind of gets done quicker. So the pen that you use actually really does make a really big difference. So with a Micron pen, I like that kind of pen because you can really control the lines because they're just a little bit lighter because there's, the nub of the pen is smaller. So the drawing kind of comes up a lot slower than if you're using like a 0.8 Micron pen, and it's going to be, and if you're interested in these pens, I will put a link in the description. You can check those out. And those are like my my go-to set of pens that I really like to use because they're both they're archival, which means that they'll last, they won't fade, and they just have a really good they just have a good feel to them. So those are the ones that I use in most of my videos. If you're not already a subscriber and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like the video, and leave a comment. That helps get it out to more people. So my fifth tip, and this goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning, is to always be kind of thinking about the overall lighting situation of whatever you're drawing. So we talked about this at the beginning where I was showing you how I kind of go about looking at an object and identifying the areas that should be light, that should be midtone, and that should be dark. So if you'll notice, that's what I'm doing in this drawing. So not only am I looking for the values, I think that sometimes when you're drawing, it can be kind of like seeing the forest for the trees. So you want to be like making sure that when you're working on a drawing, you can get so like laser focused on one section of it that sometimes you have to step back and be like, wait, am I still getting the overall feel of this object? And so like the overall lighting situation. So like if you look at this one when we were starting and we were talking about how the light was kind of coming in from the window and how there was light around the eyes and over the bridge of the nose and at the top of the head. Those are things that I don't want to lose sight of. So, you can kind of get like you're drilling down and you're getting those, the teeth drawn and you're like being really focused on some of the details. It's very helpful to kind of like step back away from your drawing. And you'll see artists do that a lot of the time. Like they'll kind of stand back from their drawing or painting if you're doing a painting, and you'll look further out and be like, okay, does this still look right? Or am I needing to kind of make one area darker, keep an area lighter, or whatever it is? Okay, so that's another thing just to always be keeping in mind. And so my last tip is just to try to have some patience when you're doing a drawing like this. And pen and ink is a pretty versatile medium, so you don't have to always use pen and ink in this way. And if you want quicker sketches, I'll put a link in the comments to show just some other different types of quicker sketches that you can do with pen and ink. So pen and ink doesn't have to take forever, but if you're trying to get like a full value scale like this, it does take a little bit of a while. So make sure you have time. Don't rush your drawing if you're trying to do a drawing like this. And again, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, and I will see you next time. Thank you as always for joining. Okay, bye.